Oh boy, here I go, playing a deck full of X1s again. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. And today we're going to be jamming Infect. So, obviously based on my joke in the intro, like, why? Just why would we do that? Well, Christopher gave me a donation deck list, and there's some new cards that might actually keep Infect viable, even in an Orcish Bowmaster world, and both of them just hit Magic Online. First up is Embiggen, which is from Unfinity. Long story short, what the text ends up being here is that the creature you target is probably going to get +4/+4 within the confines of this deck list. And if we treat kind of Giant Growth as the on-rate card that has just been, an evergreen card that has been everywhere for years and years and years, this is something that is going beyond that level. So this is another card that can combo kill with Berserk. Your creature starts with 1 power, you give it +4 power with Embiggen, and then Berserk doubles its power for lethal damage. And normally, this deck has to go and play some sorcery speed cards to get this same sort of effect. So Embiggen is another thing that can protect you from direct damage from something like an Orcish Bowmaster, while also serving as a thing that can combo with Berserk in the combat step, which is huge. With Wilds of Eldraine coming to Magic Online, we also get Royal Treatment. I'm sorry, Legacy players, it looks like you are going to have to learn what role tokens are. So, target creature gets hexproof until end of turn. Cool. You also get a Royal Role token attached to that creature, which means that enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has Ward 1. So this is going to protect you from Bowmasters the turn that you cast this spell by fizzling the trigger with hexproof. And then it is going to permanently have a +1/+1, meaning it doesn't die to Orcish Bowmasters anymore, and it also has Ward 1, which by Legacy standards doubles the cost of a spell that is going to target it, right? Like Swords to Plowshares costing 2 mana versus 1 mana is a really big benefit. Now, before I get going here, I want to shout out Sam, aka Fenris Cloud, for providing me with this deck list. If you enjoy Infect and you're not following Sam already, please check him out. He also has a YouTube channel as well if you're itching for more Infect content. Let's take a look at the full deck list here. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com as well as Cool Stuff Inc. And if you need any paper magic cards like Embiggen, use promo code ThrabenU at checkout to save 5% on your order at Cool Stuff Inc. So this is the deck list in all of its glory, and we can see yet another one of those land cycler cards getting in on another legacy deck. Within the confines of this deck, this is a cantrip that goes and finds us a tropical island while also pitching to Force of Will. We have 2 copies of Royal Treatment as well as 2 copies of Embiggen here. We are only on 2 copies of Berserk and a single copy of Ponder. We have to fit in Royal Treatment as well as Embiggen somewhere. If you take a quick scan of the mana base, you will see that there is a Savannah in the sideboard, and that is so that we can cast Swords to Plowshares when we need to do so. There is an oddity in the sideboard, and that is Great Stable Stag, an uncounterable pro-blue, pro-black creature. I'm a little bit skeptical of this being good, but this might be just the card that this deck needs within this specific metagame. Keep in mind that it will get buffed by things like Noble Hierarch's Exalted triggers, so it's not like this is just going to be a flat 7-turn clock. You have pump spells and stuff like that in here. With that being said, let's hop into the matches and see how this deck feels. My opponent has revealed a Kahira, which probably means that they are on some fringe deck or a brew. I have no starting land to cycle this, so despite the fact that there's a lot of good stuff going on with this hand, it just has to be a mulligan. Turn 1 probably needs to be Tropical Island Glistener Elf, I have Force of Will, Pitching Brainstorm to protect this creature, and Pendelhaven and Inkmoth Nexus. This is a very respectable 6-card hand. I think I keep all 3 lands. All 3 lands do important things. This is a pump spell. This is my second creature. This is my blue mana. All right. We are potentially playing against lands or some kind of stacks deck, it's actually looking like here. Yes, that occurs. Blast Zone is really annoying in a deck that wants to play 1-drop creatures. Wasteland Recursion is also a thing that I need to start thinking about. This is actually a super tough decision because, like, I have cantrips in my deck and I also have days in my deck. So if I fetch a basic, well, I guess I should confirm that I have a basic forest. Oh, never mind. Never mind. We will grab a Trop and just drop a Glistener Elf. So next turn, I can potentially attack for 6 Infect counters. Opponent not going for Life from the Loam. That is a Blast Zone. And we're chilling. It is a Noble Hierarch. I guess... Do I brainstorm looking for Berserk? Because if I find Berserk, I just have a kill. If I brainstorm, I temporarily drop Force of Will, which is awkward. I'd like to find a kill before this Blast Zone gets online and my opponent starts recurring it. I am going to... Nope. I'm going to attempt Brainstorm. Negative. I might not need to counter a spell. I don't have a lot of information about what my opponent is doing over there. I don't love Noble Hierarch into Blast Zone. I am probably going to throw that back. I maybe throw back Pendelhaven so that I can ponder and shuffle. I like that. So I will go ahead and cast this. No to this stuff. That is another Blighted Agent. Sure. I'm going to go ahead and crash on in. I am going to take Invigorate damage right now when I think that it is safe. No Dredge. I just don't think I want to hold Invigorate to play around something like Punishing Fire. I think I know, sir, that. Exploration plus Life from the Loam is a lot. Let's pitch this. It's a little awkward if my opponent then crop rotations for a Maze of Ith, which is incredibly good, but I'm hoping that my opponent casts that Exploration with the intention of then playing another land to activate Blast Zone. This was my opponent's land drop. Oh, nice. I did succeed in that plan. So let's draw Embiggen. That's kind of like Embiggen. All right. Land drop. Back with Glistener Elf. No blocks. We'll kick it. Yeah, that's +5/+5. That is game. Yeah, I think my opponent got greedy by playing Exploration. They were not dead this turn. So what am I doing in this matchup? Maybe nothing? I don't think I want to try to stop my opponent's Merit Lodge. I don't know exactly what my opponent's sideboard cards are going to look like. I can do something like this to fight over the graveyard. I think I just don't care. I could Force of Vigor to attack some mana. I can attack Explorations and Moxen with Force of Vigor. But I think I just try to go under my opponent one of these 2 games here. If my opponent ends up boarding in a giant pile of, say, Swords to Plowshares and Path to Exiles or something, I can consider Flusterstorm for the next game. Yeah, this looks fine. So we're going to have some things like Tabernacle and Maze of Ith that I'm going to care about quite a bit. Okay, that's just a Life from the Loam. That's okay. Sure, that's a blue card to pitch to Force of Will. I don't mind that at all. So let's go ahead and do this. We have lethal over 2 turns. I have an Embiggen attack and then a Vines of the Vastwood attack. Ancient Tomb and Thespian Stage over there. Feels like crop rotation. That's a crop rotation. We're going to say no to that because that represents Maze of Ith. Nice. And that's just life from the loam. This is all okay. So I probably take turns surprisingly interesting. A lot of it is like, do I want to hold up a defensive Vines of the Vastwood? I think I probably do. Colorless mana versus colored mana matters a lot because I, in theory, want green, green, green next turn. So I think I am going to go ahead and fetch, grab a Trop, just drop the Noble Hierarch, and then swing in for 2. I'm unsure if it's better to just like guarantee Embiggen damage this turn, knowing that I have another creature in the not too distant future beyond that. I'm just very wary of Swords to Plowshares right now. All right, there's stage. Okay. Let's drop a... Oh, that's actually a mistake. Oh, fuck. That's a... Oh, no, it's not animated right now. But it is a mistake. All right. Send it in. That's an endurance. That is not a problem. Sure. I think I just let this creature go and then play Blighted Agent and then kill my opponent with Blighted Agent, Embiggen, Vines, Noble next turn. Yeah, this is okay. I don't waste resources here. All right, goodbye. And then I'll drop Blighted Agent. And this is going to be able to get through something like a Merit Lodge that my opponent could produce, or the Endurance that's already in play. Okay, yeah, spheres are not unexpected. Life from the Loam's fine. Not that I can do anything about it, even if it wasn't. My opponent can copy Inkmoth Nexus now, if that's a thing that they wanted to do. So short of something a little wild like Solitude happening, I should be able to just present a kill here. Am I land cycling with this? I'm pretty close to just treating this as a draw 3 if something goes wrong. I don't think so. So send in with my unblockable creature. Get Exalted. No blocks. Let's kick this. Get the hexproof first. And then I will Embiggen. That should do it. All right, that's a kill on turn 4. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I personally keep all of my deck lists for every format on this site. I love that I can go and sort them by types and tags if I need to. There's a lot of different viewing options. It can give you some math about your mana symbol, your curve, and you can even playtest and do sample opening hands with it. Check this site out if you haven't before. It's awesome. We got a little bit of a weird hand here that I think I am going to keep. Against some portion of the metagame, Double Wasteland is really strong. And assuming that I end up getting a little bit more mana, or that Noble Hierarch lives, either one of those things happening, we can probably play some pretty disgusting games of Magic. I will fully just be wastelanding that in my opponent's upkeep. We will start the game over happily with no lands in play. And the reason that we do this in the upkeep is that if my opponent happens to have the card Stifle, I don't want them to use the mana on my turn, I want them to use the mana on their turn. Hey, look, it's a thing that I just talked about. We got the second land drop from my opponent. Now that the first Wasteland didn't work, I'm less incentivized to use the second immediately. I'll still think about it as like taking them off of Volcanic Island makes my creatures safer. And I'd still like to buy some time to get a forest so that this spell will actually be free. Hey, there it is. With 4 lands in hand, I am now comfortable wastelanding Volcanic Island to make it just a little bit less likely that my opponent lightning bolts one of my creatures. Presuming that we're playing against a Delver deck, generally speaking, I'm not the biggest fan of wastelanding Delver anymore. No basic land. I have to respect Stifle. I'm probably not attacking with an Inkmoth Nexus anytime soon. I'm going to drop Pendelhaven. Dropping Pendelhaven and dropping Forest, I think, are pretty similar. I would not protect a Noble Hierarch from a Lightning Bolt, which is why I'm not playing a Forest yet. I would rather lose the Pendelhaven than to lose one of these 3 lands, because I don't want to be wastelanded off of forest, because that shuts off Invigorate. Oh, sure. Oh, that's fine. I can find a time to 100% fetch safely with Misty Rainforest, that would make me happy. But in order for that to happen, my opponent probably has to tap out for something like this, or a Murktide Regent or something like that. We're not that scared of Uro. Like, Uro is a little spooky for card advantage reasons and for this specific play, but otherwise is not the end of the world. We're not winning via direct combat damage. I am unhappy about that draw. We don't want extra mana at this point. We want additional creatures, or another pump spell, or a Noble Hierarch or something. In theory, I have 9 damage showing. So the next question becomes, like, if my opponent casts a Lightning Bolt, would I Invigorate to save Glistener Elf? Unsure. I'm hoping that I don't have to think about it. Daze. This turn is super awkward because, like, some portion of the time I want to Vines kicked after my opponent responds. But in the times where Glistener Elf somehow dies, I really want to play this. I think I am not going to play Inkmoth Nexus here and just send in with Glistener Elf. I think I am comfortable going for some partial damage here. All right, got 5 damage in. That is a great start. Sure. I'm a little surprised to see my opponent not use that to take away my Infect. But if they're about to play Phyrexian Dreadnought or something, I'll shut up. Alright. As promised, I'll shut the fuck up. So that makes it very awkward that I did not play out Inkmoth Nexus last turn. Now I can't attack with a flyer successfully this turn. But hopefully I have a kill next turn if my opponent does not wasteland me. We'll be passing the turn here. My mana is going to be tight next turn. 8-12. So I am dead to that Dreadnought next turn pretty much every time. Cool. That means I don't have to fetch, which is a pretty big deal. Let's animate this Nexus. Go to combat. Send in attackers. My opponent almost certainly has something. No blocks. Let's invigorate our Glistener Elf. Our opponent can gain some life. My opponent now, if they have anything, has to respond or this is lethal. Petty Theft. So I don't need to make my spell dazable. I don't need to kick this. This is already lethal. Let's just Vines that. That's brutal. So my Daze is not a live counter spell here. I guess to play around Petty Theft, I could have pumped the Inkmoth Nexus. That's a weird niche interaction. I lose the game for not choosing Inkmoth Nexus there. Neat. Yeah. That's super cool. All right, I will concede. So I want 4 copies of Swords to Plowshares here. Veil of Summer is something I can consider, I guess. I don't know that I'm super excited about it. Dress Down's a weird one to have to deal with. I'm not sure what I want after that. If I expect this game to grind on a little bit longer, I can get rid of Berserk. I think I still like Daze when I'm on the play. I'm unsure whether or not I can touch these. And I'm unsure whether I need more protection. Honestly, it may just be in the game where I'm on the play, I don't try to answer their creatures at all. And I just, like, play 2 counter spells of some kind, either Flusters or Veils. They do different thing. Fluster's better versus Lightning Bolt in particular. I'm gonna try Fluster. I am lacking in an Infect creature here, and I don't think I want to go like Mana Dork, Daze Your Play, Daze Your Play, Daze Your Play, trying to draw into an Infect creature. Alright. Drop into Noble Hierarch. Have Invigorate and a piece of protection. This is fine. I'm keeping this. I think I throw back Force of Will here and keep Fluster, but I'm not 100% sure. I just like the idea of being able to brainstorm and then using Lorien Revealed to shuffle some portion of the time. And since one of my pump spells is already free, holding up Flusterstorm's probably okay. Another Hierarch. So let's brainstorm. We're getting some movement. A Pyroblast. How much do I care about this brainstorm? How important is it? Is it worth my Flusterstorm? Let's say no. Let's go ahead and cycle. Grab a Trop, play a Trop, drop a Noble Hierarch. And again, we still need an Infect creature, but we are going to be pretty good at protecting one once we find it. It's possible I do need to just trade the Fluster there for the Pyroblast. We'll just start cracking in for physical points of damage with Noble Hierarch. Like, my opponent doesn't present a clock, I will nickel and dime them to death. I have no shame. No end step plays either. Which is probably unfortunate for me, because it probably means my opponent's hand is highly interactive, unless their hand is just full of clunkers, like Dreadnoughts. That is occurring. There is nothing I can do about that with my Flusterstorm. Unfortunately, that means that their second main phase is really effing good. Sure. Again, I don't think I want to pick a fight over cantrip. Not the biggest fan of that, but I have 4 mana available. Okay, we're just chilling. They're just going to save this for another land. I think I'm holding that tropical island so it does not give them additional mana via Carpet of Flowers. And it also can be a target for putting back with a Brainstorm if I draw another one. I've got 2 damage a turn. And if need be, I do have... How many things do you have? 3. Sure, that's fine. I do just have 7 more points of... 7 more points of damage in hand. So I can attack for 9 next turn. Alright, that is an Uro. So this hits play, does not trigger, but also does not get escaped. Yeah, none of those things interact with Flusterstorm. So I'm potentially taking 18 next turn, and these don't get to attack in for damage anymore. So that was pretty bad. We're looking to draw like a Blighted Agent here. Noble Hierarch, very nice. I did not board in Swords to Plowshares. So I think that means I'm dead. Like, I can Hemorrhage Invigorates and Embiggens to, like, block. So the way from here that I win involves my opponent attacking with both of these creatures. I take 18, go to 2, and then I somehow deal 14 points of damage by drawing Berserk specifically. That's the plan. All according to Kaikaku. Until my opponent lightning bolts my face. But I'm not going to chump block here. I think my situation is bad enough that, like, sometimes I'm going to need to string together cantrips, especially if my opponent does wasteland me off of one of these lands. Okay. Flusterstorm doesn't get this. I can invigorate one of these. And I guess I'm doing that. So we will hardcast and invigorate as to not give my opponent life. And keep one of these alive. My out now involves a Brainstorm, I think. My opponent should fully wasteland me. Oh. Well, that's fine. Storm counts 3. Ah! Fucking stifle, man. GG's. I have an interesting hand here. I don't have a colored mana source. But I can lead on, like, Inkmoth Nexus, cycle Lorien Revealed, and then play Glistener Elf on turn 2. I'm on the draw. I also get an extra card here. It's just super awkward if my opponent's playing a combo deck and I have to end up Force of Willing in early play. We've never had a hand that looks like this. I guess it doesn't go fast. I guess it's awkward and doesn't go fast, right? Because, like, this is an incredibly defensive hand. I think I want to go fast in game 1. I've talked myself into a mulligan. On 6, I probably keep this and pitch 1 copy of Wasteland. Feeling a little bit of the awkwardness of like Lorien Revealed counting as part of my mana base here. Okay. Dragon Rage Channeler is occurring. So we're going to have a similar match to the last one, conceptually speaking, where we have to deal with counterspells and lightning bolts. I don't think I am going to attempt to wasteland my opponent out of this game. I think this game... I need Days Up right now. Maybe I need Days Up right now. I think this game is about finding a turn where I can win with Blighted Agent. I might need to end up wastelanding my opponent to make my own days better. This land's a little awkward with multiple colorless lands here. Alright, second land. Oh, it's Up the Beanstalk. Am I dazing that? My first time, I think, playing against this card. I don't really want to go behind on mana. I think I let that happen. And I'll just take 3 damage here. Then we'll cycle Lorien Revealed at end of turn. Pick up another Trop. Noble Hierarch. So how am I approaching this game? I don't think it's my time to try to start going for a win immediately. I think after seeing Up the Beanstalk and realizing that my opponent might be trying to drag this game on a little bit longer than I want, I think I'm going to go after a Volcanic Island to make my own days more likely to actually be a protection spell for Blighted Agent. And this also puts Murktide Regent in range of a daze if my opponent wants to do that. That's fine. I'll eat 3 more damage here. I'm at 13. Delve card? Hooting Mandrills. Understood. I guess I dazed that. This is not where I want to be in this game. Yeah, so draw your card. I can't let that 4/4 in play. Oh, that's a great draw, honestly. Like, that allows me to play Blighted Agent with protection up. So, like, my next turn is Blighted Agent plus Inkmoth Nexus have 2 different Infect creatures that can start attacking. This feels a little obnoxious. Right? Like, the Murktides and Hooting Mandrills cantrip, as do Force of Wills. And this card itself cantripped. Fuck. Alright. Yeah, I take 3 this turn, 6 every turn after this. Let's, like, find a Berserk or something. I don't think I can play this turn. I think this turn has to be deploy creatures, because I'm just dead the following turn. Like, I'm about to take 6 points of damage. I can't take... Fuck! So that is now double Surveil and draw a card. Good God. This Up the Beanstalk card might be good. Maybe I should record with it. I'm at 4. And another Delve creature that's gonna cantrip is coming. Fuck me. Yeah. This is sweet. Oh no. There's no way I can present a win here. GG's. So I guess the primary question is, am I fighting over my opponent's creatures? I don't think so in the game where I'm on the play. Kind of want some amount of this stuff. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to cut. See, going down one of these, but then I want to cut 2 more cards. Like, is it Berserk? Am I stopping trying a combo kill, and I'm just trying to get 2 good hits in? The answer might be yes. This is a hand where I could Brainstorm lock myself and immediately die. But I don't think I'm going to keep this one. I think I'd rather try to find something more consistent, like this No-Lander. Again, there is a cost associated with these cards. Like, they are very good, but this hand is absolutely batshit insane with a single like tropical island in the place of this, or a single fetch land, right? Like I pitch the Brainstorm and then I just have like very good mana and very good protection. We're now on 5, where I'll certainly keep this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then one of these 3 cards. I think Fluster's going back. And I think 2 lands is enough. I think this is going back. And I can just attempt to daze the first removal spell. Unfortunately, my deck is lighter on like ponders than normal. So I don't have as many cantrips to go and get me to the pump spells that I need for this hand to actually become good. And we're fully going to just daze that. I'm not going to give my opponent that selection here. I have expendable creatures as of right now. I'm just going to play Trop again. Going to just... No, I'm not actually. This is only worth 1 point of Infect. It's a start. That occurs. And then we'll see what my opponent does as a follow-up. Yes. Okay. Well, my opponent knows what I'm about to draw, but then I'm just fucking hootie. Well, let's cycle. Pick up a new Trop so my opponent doesn't know what I've got. And their 4/4 does resolve. Sure. I could play Noble and Nexus this turn to play around Daze. I don't think that matters a lot here, because I will still have a follow-up creature afterwards. I think giving my opponent a chance to Lightning Bolt a Blighted Agent is more important. Sure. My opponent's deck feels really effing good. Now, I haven't seen all of it, obviously, but it just feels like it uses the graveyard as a resource just so well. And Hooting Mandrills is no joke. Like, I know that card hasn't seen a lot of play since Murktide Regent got printed, but, like, it is a very respectable Magic the Gathering card. Alright. Yeah. Yeah. This is an awkward turn. I can't hold up Vines and kick it, so I think I'm just going to attack with both of my creatures. This represents 2 damage over 2 different bodies. There is a bad thing that can happen, and I'm just not going to talk about it and not will it into existence. Cool, it did not happen. We're going to call it a turn. So now that it didn't happen, my opponent does not currently have an instant in their graveyard. So if they had an instant, such as a Brainstorm, they could have turned this into a 3/3 flyer and then blocked the Inkmoth Nexus, and it would have been really awkward for me. But I am behind here, so I think we are on... Take the risky lines. Ooh, Wasteland's good. Yep. I'm gonna need like another pump spell off the top, maybe. And my opponent to have nothing. Stop! That is a play that nearly puts me at lethal damage, right? So like this is 7 damage, putting me to 8 life. So my fetch lands and Force of Wills are now off the table. That, however, is a perfectly reasonable play. We'll go ahead and Inkmoth, and I think I just hold up this mana. I'm never killing my opponent with fair damage, the way that this game currently looks. I am dead to Lightning Bolt. Otherwise, I have a real shot. I go to 1, though. I need another removal spell, and I did not draw it. So I can kick for 4, 5, 6 damage, be 1 Infect short. I cannot produce flying blockers. Double check my math. 4 + 1 + 1, 6 + 3, 9. That's dead, and if I activate Inkmoth Nexus, I lose the 1 from Exalted that I've already counted. That'll do. GG's. Okay, I'm not actually a fan of this hand. It looks good, but in order for me to get a kill, I need 3 mana. I need to kick Vines and then Berserk. So I think I'm just going to ship this one. So Glistener Elf with Daze backup, Ponder to find another land, Blighted Agent to either pitch to Force of Will or cast as a secondary threat. This is pretty good. All right. We're probably not playing against a competitive deck after seeing Tree of Tales. So we've got that going for us. What I don't have going for me is the fact that I don't have pump spells in my hand. Okay. That is only 2 artifacts here. That's fine. Royal Treatment's kind of whatever right now. So my opponent is more likely to block my creature than to kill my creature after seeing this start. Yeah, we're playing against something in like the Glimpse of Nature ballpark. Let's just play Noble Hierarch this turn and develop my mana. And then next turn we can ponder. I am very happy that we have double counterspells. Alright, my opponent's at 2 Infect. Okay. I don't know why my opponent kept their hand. If there's no actions taken on this turn. One of the best tools in your disposal is mulligans. I am not interested in this stuff. I want pump spells to end this game or additional counterspells. Hey, that's an additional counterspell. It is admittedly a slightly awkward one because it's very hard for me to use 2 dazes right now. But let's just send on in. Okay. Right, my opponent's at 5 Infect. Okay, Mox Opal is now on. Up the beanstalk. Why? I don't know, but I don't think I can justify using my only counterspell on that. Sorry, my only hard counterspell, I should say. Okay. I have 3 damage this turn. I can make it 4 with Royal Treatment, but I probably don't want to do that. So we'll just go ahead and attack in for 3. Off the double Exalted triggers. Opponent's at 8 Infect. I can now play out a second Infect creature and still have multiple layers of protection available. Yes, you may Mox Opal. I see. Thought Monitor does not do anything here by itself, but it represents 2 card draws, which I probably want to stop, and it turns on Gaia's Cradle. So we will go ahead and just daze that. Returning Tropical Island to hand. That doesn't tap for mana. You may draw a card. All right, there's an artifact land, which if you had that, you probably should have just played it prior to Thought Monitors. That would have reduced the cost. We're going to play 3 copies of Force of Vigor, and that's probably about it. My opponent maybe has Force of Wills, but they are fully in Brew territory. I think I'm going to go Royal Treatments out and 1 Ponder out for some Force of Vigors. I probably need to respect Chalice of the Void, maybe? A little hard for me to tell. I didn't see my opponent do a whole lot. My dazes are worse on the draw, but my opponent is playing very expensive cards from the look of things. My hand is a keep. It represents a combo kill on turn 3. Sure. Okay. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. Yep. Let's grab Tropical Island, play Noble Hierarch, and pass. Next turn, I get to drop 2 different Infect creatures at the same time. Yes, that spell can resolve. I do not care. Yep. Yeah, that's also fine. Like, it's good. But I have a combo turn to protect, and I am going to do that. Yeah, so let's Nexus, play a Blighted Agent. I get to hold the second one for this. I'm going to hold up this extra mana. Again, I don't think my opponent's life total matters. And my opponent's interaction with me is probably in the form of counter spells and creatures that look like this. So we're good. Sure. At this point, Up the Beanstalk has drawn like 3 cards. I guess 4, counting the card that it drew itself. Like, what's the plan to actually win the game? Like, is there Kappa Cannoneer in here too? That would make sense. My opponent's trying to pay for something and is confused about how it's working. Yep, sure. That represents Gaia's Cradle. I think that still falls into the realm of things that I don't care about. Sure. All I need to do on my turn is resolve 2 of Invigorate or Berserk to kill my opponent. My opponent is going to need to pass the turn with a very large number of Force of Wills specifically, assuming that they are playing Force of Will. That is a Glimpse of Nature. This I should consider countering. My opponent has Force of Will and forces this back. I'm happy with that. That still gets the Force of Will out of hand. I do just have to still respect something wild like Natural Order just happening. Or my opponent has a bunch of 0-cost creatures that I just haven't seen yet in either game. I think I'm going to pull a trigger on this one. Pitch Blighted Agent. Okay, that's fine. That's also fine. Okay. I'm going to skip to relevant stuff. My opponent has played a couple of spells and is now getting a Glimpse of Nature. And we are seeing the first 0-drop creatures actually happen, which I suspected they were around, but I just hadn't seen them. Alright, my opponent has played a handful more creatures, but it seems like we have hit the end of what they are capable of doing. So now they're going to discard like 10 cards. So notably here, I have not seen any Force of Will type effects yet. Cranial Plating as an alternate plan. Okay, good to know. So, we will Pendelhaven, pump Blighted Agent, which cannot be blocked. We'll swing in, we'll get an extra point off of Exalted here. After no blocks, we will invigorate our creature. Our opponent gets some life. My opponent went to the waiting to pay costs screen, so they do have a piece of interaction. But it looks like this one resolves. I will now invigorate my creature again. You gain life. There is a Flusterstorm. This is not the time that you use a Flusterstorm. You use a Flusterstorm after you've exhausted all of your other resources. I can currently pay for this. I could also just Berserk above this, but I think I'm just going to pay. The result is the same either way, right? Like, I pay and counter this, or I do this. Another Fluster beats me either way. Another Force of Will effect beats me either way. I'm just going to pay. Actually, what if I Berserk? If I Berserk, I can still block a creature. Block this 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, well over 20. Yeah, if blocking is not reasonable, I will just pay with Fluster. Pay for Fluster. Alright, so I have paid. Is there another Fluster? There is another Fluster, unfortunately. My Force of Wills do not line up well against. I will deal 7 points of Infect to my opponent, and then they will kill me. So I'm probably supposed to read this as they do not have Force of Will in their deck. Just not enough blue cards to support that count. That's fine. Alright. We now kind of know what's up. I don't think I'm going to change anything about boarding. Like, Veil of Summer is really good against Flusterstorm in particular, but I think I'm just trying to kill my opponent and not overly dilute my deck. This is a defensive hand that I could keep and take out my opponent's early artifacts, but I'd rather try to kill my opponent. Or mulligan into Oblivion. We're going to 5 here. This is a pretty good 5-card hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and probably Inkmoth Nexus over Lorien Revealed. There is also an argument to keep Wasteland to just lower my opponent's artifact count and just ignore Inkmoth Nexus because it can be blocked. Yes, I like that better. There is also a chance that my opponent times out. Okay, Seed Opal's fine. Noble's an okay draw. Go ahead and take my opponent off of seat. And then we'll go ahead and drop Blighted Agent. No Force of Will is great. And we will get to attack for 3 points of Infect damage per turn, while also having Invigorate to shove 4 initial points of damage. Yes, that is fine. Let's see. So I guess I would like to Invigorate at sorcery speed. If my opponent flusters that, I just pay. So do that, targeting our good friend Blighted Agent. Then we drop Noble Hierarch. Get in for 7 points of damage after these triggers. Putting our opponent to 7 Infect, and I drop a secondary creature, which I'm hoping I don't have to use. Not expecting very much actual removal from my opponent's deck outside of this for an animated Inkmoth Nexus. Sure. So the Thought Monitors and Thoughtcasts now get cheap. But we saw most of my opponent's deck last game, and they didn't have spot removal. Sure. Alright, there's a Thought Monitor. That doesn't do anything. They've named Abandon Hope. They understand that they are dead. Yep. So there is the Blighted Agent attack with Exalted. This is the 3 points of Infect damage that I need to turn the corner here. And that'll do it. GG's. So what am I looking at here? Play Inkmoth Nexus, cycle this, get Trop, be able to Invigorate. My Vines of the Vastwood is not very good with this hand, but this is probably an incredible 6-card hand. I'm going to just keep it. I'm also on the draw, so if I end up finding another Infect creature, it only gets better. It's just a little awkward that my Daze isn't immediately online, because again, these cards are not free. Wooded Foothills. Are we doing Delver things again? Or are we some like nice, honest elf deck? Unsure. God, I'm so scared of Stifle on my Lorien Revealed trigger. Oh, that's weird. I probably play Trop so that I have Daze available. And I just kind of temper my expectations on where this game could go. There's also some amounts of times now where I don't cycle Lorien Reveal and it becomes Force of Will fodder if it looks like my opponent is doing something unfair. Wooded Foothills is like not necessarily an unfair land. Tropical Island. Excuse me. Alright, what are we working with? Smells like Delver. At this point, my opponent either has an incredibly tough decision to make or they are new to whatever deck they are playing. Oh. Didn't know this new art existed. So this is probably like Rhinos. It is Rhinos. We'll just Daze that. So float a mana. Target Crashing Footfalls. Bump this back to my hand. We're not going to let my opponent have 8 power. Alright, and that is successful. We'll now cycle this Lorien Revealed. We're definitely on force pitching Force if I need to. Counter, you know, the Minsk and Boo or another Cascade, or not the Cascade spell. Another Crashing Footfalls. That is another Inkmoth Nexus. I'm not super a fan of that. Some portion of the time I am attacking with Inkmoth next turn. I'm just going to play that and pass. I don't need to have Vines or Invigorate available right now. That's an Otawara, which I'm happy is in play rather than a complete and savage blowout that gets around Force of Will. Alright. Rhino number 2 is incoming. This is all kind of the expected stuff here. I'm also expecting to see like potentially Minsk and Boo and like Murktide Regent is possible as well. So we will Force of Will that. I'm not close enough to ending this game that I can save the Force of Will. Now I do need to respect that my opponent does just have 4 power in play as leftovers from these Shardless Agents. Okay. Is this an Invigorate turn? Probably not. The answer is probably not. I play a second Inkmoth. Well, no, I actually might need multiple green sources next turn. Okay. So, play this. We're going to send in for 1 point of Infect damage. Next turn, I can kick Vines of Vastwood for 4, Invigorate for 4. The one from Inkmoth will be 9. And then this is the 10th point. So in theory, I have a kill next turn. Oh, excuse me. I don't have a kill next turn because I do not have enough mana to kick Vines. Let's play a new one of these. This is the newly controlled one. This one is not newly controlled. Let's animate it. I'm just sending in for 1 here. That's good enough. Again, I don't think I need to fire off spells here. And I'm going to try not to daze anything on my opponent's turn, because I just represent a kill if I can kick vines. That is fire. I can protect from that if I would like, with vines. I could also let it go. It slows me down another turn cycle. I think that's fine. I think I play patiently here. Like, I don't mind 4 damage a turn. That is very beatable. It's when I have to daze a follow-up play that things get awkward, which I did not. Wasteland's neat. I have to keep in mind that Violent Outburst is a thing that can happen. That's beatable with daze. They had Violent Outburst, though. They probably do it on their turn, get 2 more points of damage in. I guess it's always lethal if it resolves next turn, though. Alright, play one of these. This one's newly controlled. This one is not newly controlled. Animate it. Send in for 1. I'll just hit my opponent for that 1 and call it a turn. Again, hoping to not have to use Daze, because it makes my life very awkward to cast that spell. Green of vines is really rough in this, like, Inkmoth Nexus Wasteland mana base. Well, I guess, like, I am on a triple Inkmoth Nexus hand. Like, let's clarify. This is slightly abnormal. Wow, Dismember. So I will protect this land this time, I think, right? This time I probably protect the land. I'm taking enough chip damage here that I probably need to just kind of be aware that waiting a whole nother turn cycle here is starting to get to the point where spells like this can go to my face and finish off the game. I don't want that to happen. I'm at 5. Hierarch is an additional damage. So what I can get 2 damage from an Inkmoth Nexus plus 4 damage. I can get really damn close. I think I wasteland my opponent off of red here. There's a Brazen Borrower. I am going to need to daze that, otherwise I am dead. So I will float green, daze Brazen Borrower, targeting this. That's a rough force of will. Okay. So this is off. I've played my land drop. I play Noble Hierarch. I'm not the happiest about what I'm going to have to do to stay alive. I have to block a Brazen Borrower. Invigorate is also not currently on. I do have draws that result in a kill next turn, but not a lot of them. Alright, so my opponent sends in with everything, which I'm not entirely sure is correct. Like, it forces a chump block with an Inkmoth Nexus, but this line still allows me to attack with an Inkmoth on my turn and potentially kill my opponent. It's fine if they have an ice. They have an ice, they can just tap down this land in response, and I am fully dead. Yeah. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, so even if I block one of these, I still take exactly 5 and die. That's a little disappointing. I would not have gotten the required draw to get there, though. Would have just been 1 Infect short again. Alright, so Flusterstorm is a little bit interesting to stop opposing counterspells. There's not going to be that many of them because my opponent can't play things like Daze that are going to be gotten by Shardless Agent. So there's that. Opponent does have Dismembers, so Vines matters. I guess same with Royal Treatment. I might not sideboard for the game that I'm on the play. And then play Flusterstorm for the game that I'm on the draw. Glistener Elves will also get a little bit worse on the draw because things like Shardless Agent will have more of a chance to get in the way. I am feeling these colorless lands so badly. Yeah, this is not going to cut it. This is missing an Infect creature. I probably keep it and hope that Brainstorm can find me one. And I pitch 1 Vines with a Vastwood. Right, 1 Vines go back. We're good. So let's deploy good old Noble Hierarch and go from there. Got a lot of oomph. All right. Let's try to fix this hand. Oh, we did not succeed. Yikes. This is probably a 2 lands go back situation. I'm going to keep a Wasteland, because some portion of this time that can still do some important stuff in keeping my opponent from getting to 3 mana or 3 mana a second time. Drop Noble and crack in for 2. Alright, so let's see if our opponent has like some sort of Spirit Guide based play for their turn that makes them some rhinos. Because my Brainstorm missed, so if they produce 8 power here, they will probably outclock me. Or I guess it would be 10 power, right? Oh man, another natural basic. Or no, sorry, they fetched for that one. They fetched for that one. Alright, we're chilling. I'm definitely worried about fire just stripping a bunch of my resources. I guess I play this out. I guess regarding the Brainstorm, if I have fewer cantrips in my deck than normal, I guess the likelihood of me hitting another cantrip to continue fixing the hand is lower. Yep, that is occurring. My opponent gets 8 power in play. Well, I guess 10, technically, for the moment. They're going to double block. How badly do I want to get rid of those rhinos? Is it this badly? It might be this badly. Like, I treat Vines of the Vastwood and Embiggen as a weird-ass force of will. I have no ability to know what the top of my deck is. I am in for this. I very much hate that I am. And I will be going for the follow-up Embiggen. So there we go. I'm not happy with that trade. I think I had to take it and just kind of hope that my opponent does not have a further follow-up play that just produces 8 more power. So I hope that they like play a land past the turn, I wasteland them, and get the time to draw into an Infect creature. I think this line is better. Fuck. Oh. Well, that one probably doesn't get a basic land. Yeah, it does not. Okay, that's okay. That's going to sit there and do an awful lot of nothing for a while, luckily. So, let's take out Volcanic Island and start doing some chip damage. We don't want to have to bring my opponent down to 0 from 18. That's not what my deck is designed to do. It might be where I'm at. Okay. Nice. I will not play that. I am not going to show that card. Slow and steady. One's at 16. All right, no play for my opponent. At what point am I actually making land drops? I think not yet. Brainstorm's incredibly valuable right now. And the ability to put back both of these lands would be huge. All right, there is a third land. This is notably not green mana, though. I am unhappy about that draw. Daze is quite bad with a Maddening Hex in play. Sure. Yeah, now we're just looking for a new creature. Preferably an Infect one, as a 10-turn clock via Infect is better than a 14 or 15-turn clock off a Noble Hierarch. And I'll daze whatever my opponent is about to do. Oh, we're doing it the hard way. That was a suspend. No, I'm not going to play the land yet. With Noble Hierarch gone, it becomes slightly more attractive to play the land, but I don't think I have to just go for it immediately. All right, no further spells from my opponent. I'm not happy about that. I'm going to drop a land this time. I'm hoping to now throw these 2 cards back with a Brainstorm. That's an Endurance that gets played around Daze. I accept that. They have recycled their own graveyard. So I could use Berserk as a removal spell here. It costs me 3 guaranteed life plus Maddening Hex damage. I think I just don't. I think it is much more important to save this Berserk to try to kill my opponent. Thank you, deck. Very cool. All right. I could have double dazed that. However, Maddening Hex is the thing. I think I'm fully dead if I don't draw a reasonable draw next turn. It would be a disappointing close to the league. I'm at 8. I don't get that many spells from Maddening Hex here. That is worth casting. That is fully worth casting. This is exactly the sort of spell that I need. Let's see how much I take. 1 would be great. That number is not 1. I'm now facing down Lethal from Endurance. I have drawn 0 creatures. Put back Daze. Cycle Lorien Revealed to get a shuffle. Getting a new drop. Recast Brainstorm. Maddening Hex trigger. Alright. Warlocks confirmed 2 strong. GG's. So where are we at the end of this league? I feel really mediocre about this deck. I just feel like it's awkward. Like, I really like Embiggen, but I'm just so missing out on the consistency of other versions of the deck. Like, I just missed those ponders so much in finding, like, the last thing that I needed. And, like, when you think about your starting lands, in order for you to play the turn 1 Glistener Elf or Noble Hierarch, you need one of these 11 cards. Lorien Revealed is replacing lands that otherwise would have been in the deck, right? Like, I don't know the mana bases for Infect over the years off the top of my head, but like I very much felt these like Wasteland or Inkmoth Nexus hands that are looking to cycle Lorien Revealed to get their colored mana source. I'm not saying that this is bad, but running this alongside 8 colorless lands in a deck that like very consistently wants to play one of these 2 cards on turn 1 was definitely rough. I was also feeling the difficulty of kicking Vines of the Vastwood. So I don't know where I would move forward with this deck, because like I do conceptually really like Royal Treatment against these Orcish Bowmaster decks, and like I like Embiggen. I'm going to trust that like Sam has put in the work and that this is a good list, but I don't think I would be sleeving this up again. And unfortunately, we didn't really play against Bowmasters today to get a feel for like how good these were in action. We saw Embiggen being good, but we never saw Royal Treatment in action, I don't think. I think I had it as protection and then just didn't need it. We also didn't really get into like a grindy like blue-black matchup where like this just would have done some absolutely crazy work holding back a Death Shadow or whatever. I can't evaluate that one either. Let me know your thoughts down below about this deck, this build right now. And folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. If you end up needing to pick up any cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. And have a great rest of the day. See ya!